Last year, I participated in a leadership program at Monash Uni, led by a good friend and leadership guru, Andrew Swan, and Australia's legendary America's Cup winning skipper, John Bertrand. There was an overwhelming theme that many of the speakers agreed upon, and it stood out like a sore thumb. Australian businesses, organisations, politicians, leaders are afraid of failure, and this inhibits their ability to achieve their full potential. One of the reasons for our fear of failure is that we have this negative tendency or belief that when something goes wrong, heads must roll. A perfect example is our elite sporting teams. Lose a few games in a row, sack the coach. Or in Australian politics, as soon as there is a media or public outcry, sack the head of the department. Bertrand and others explained how short-sighted this approach is. Often the best leaders are the ones who have previously failed. They're a step closer to success because they already know what doesn't work. They're more resilient because they've already been through the worst. They fail fast and learn faster. One of the consequences of this fear of failure in a crisis is that it discourages leaders and organisations from being completely honest with themselves and from taking responsibility in circumstances where they should. The Australian public aren't idiots, so don't treat them that way. They can always tell when someone is attempting to avoid blame and responsibility, and they hate it. On the most part, they're also realistic and value honesty. If someone is willing to accept that they've failed in this instance, take responsibility and demonstrate a plan for rectifying the situation, then there's a high probability that they'll retain their trust in you throughout the duration of the crisis. In some cases, their respect for you may even increase. How refreshing would it be to hear a politician or a CEO say, "You know what? We got this one wrong. Here's how we'll fix it." I appreciate that this is easier said than done. At Crisis Shield, we've seen firsthand many instances where an organisation facing a crisis is adamant that they shouldn't accept failure or take responsibility. Why should we? Legally, we haven't done anything wrong. And yes, whilst you may not have failed in the eyes of the law, the fact that there's public outcry or disgruntled stakeholders means that you've failed somewhere along the line. And it may be as simple as failing to communicate the situation well enough with your stakeholders. Accepting responsibility when you feel like you haven't done anything wrong is hard. It involves personal humility and putting your organisation's brand and reputation first. I also appreciate that sometimes your law team might warn against taking responsibility. And in some cases, you'll have no choice but to take this advice. But make sure you take everything into account. What will be the long-term cost in damage to your brand and reputation if you don't take responsibility? How many stakeholders will lose their trust in your ability? How much public, media and government attention can your business endure before it starts significantly hurting your bottom line? Don't be afraid to accept failure. Take responsibility, learn quickly and move on. You may be surprised by how much value Australians place in this leadership quality and approach.